Good evening and welcome back to World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. A swift and complete Russian victory. That was the goal of Istanbul talks, according to Dmitrij Medvediev, the deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council. Such a maximalist attitude doesn't leave much room for maneuver, so the Istanbul peace talks concluded without any desired outcome. In the backdrop of these diplomatic efforts, special forces operations developments are unfolding simultaneously following the Ukraine Security Services launch of a major drone offensive deep into Russian territory, damaging and destroying over 40 military aircraft in one of the largest attacks of its kind. Russia has dealt another blow today on the Crimean Bridge. Now we're joined with Rostyslav Khotin, senior editor of Radio Free Europe and Ukrainian service. Good evening, sir, and thank you for joining us again. Good to have you here in the studio.
Hello, Anna.
Ukraine and Russia agreed to prepare an all-for-all exchange for two categories of prisoners of war at the second round of peace negotiations of Istanbul on Monday. So this seems to be anything both parties were able to agree upon. What do you make of it?
Yeah, unlike the first Istanbul on the 16th of May, when the exchange 1,000 for 1,000 prisoners of war had been agreed earlier, this time the second Istanbul didn't bring any kind of concrete results, except for some humanitarian issues like exchange for the all-for-all young soldiers aged between 18 and 25 prisoners of war, and also those prisoners of war all-for-all who are severely wounded, seriously wounded, and are in hospitals rather than in prisons or camps for prisoners of war. Also, Ukrainian side proposed, it seems, the idea of again 1,000 for 1,000 exchange, but it didn't materialize this time. Also, Ukrainians gave Russian delegation list of 400 children, Ukrainian children, orphans who were abducted and brought to Russia at the beginning of the war and still in the Russian Federation. Russia took this list, but we don't know whether it will be the decision will be made to return these children, these kids to Ukraine. But the main thing, the main topic, the main purpose of this second round of Istanbul talks, the ceasefire on the front lines has not been achieved. Ukrainians proposed a 30-day ceasefire, unconditional, in the air, on the sea, on the land, but Russians have not agreed to this.
Exactly. Ukraine's Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Kryslitsa, sorry to interrupt you, said at the press conference that Russia was still refusing to accept a ceasefire. However, Russian delegation head Vladimir Medinsky countered on Monday that Russia was offering a ceasefire to the 2-3 days on certain parts of the front to allow for the collection of bodies. So how should we read this?
Yeah, Russians were ready only for 2-3 days short-term ceasefire on certain sectors of the front lines. Nothing. It's not a big deal, to be honest. It's why just to collect bodies. By the way, both sides agreed to exchange 6,000 dead bodies of soldiers from both sides in Istanbul. That's another kind of achievement of these talks. But the Russian side, for the second time during the first Istanbul, during the second Istanbul, has not agreed to a ceasefire, unconditional ceasefire, total ceasefire on land, in the air, and on the sea, despite Ukrainian offer. Russians did not accept this. There were other serious disagreements, like territorial concessions. Ukrainians thought that we should freeze the current front line and then start discussing territorial issues afterwards. Russians insisted on Ukrainian army withdrawal from 4 regions which are partly occupied by Russian army now. Luhansk region, 98% of which is occupied by Russians. Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson regions. About 70%, 72% of each of the three regions are now occupied by Russian forces, and Russians want Ukrainian troops to leave these areas, these regions completely, kind of surrounding them, giving them up. To be included as Russians, insist into Russian Federation according to the constitution of Russian Federation, which was this decision was taken by Russian Parliament earlier after in the initial stage of the war. So there were other disagreements, like Russians were strongly against Ukrainian NATO membership. Ukrainians think that NATO membership is up to alliance and Ukraine to decide with no Russian veto. Ukrainians also insist on free will to join the European Union. Another thing was that Russians were trying to limit the size and ammunition of Ukrainian armed forces, kind of so-called demilitarization of Ukraine, and also insisted that Ukraine should get rid of so-called nationalistic military units, whatever it means, nationalistic military units. And Ukrainians insist that there should be no limits on Ukrainian armed forces, on Ukrainian military-industrial complex, and Ukrainian armament. Russians also insist on kind of the West should stop any military support for Ukraine, and so on and so forth, that sanctions against Russia should be softened or withdrawn. Ukrainians think that sanctions could be softened stage by stage, according to the Russian desire for peace, their actions for peace. But there are still strong disagreements here. Also, Russian delegation insisted on Russian language to be recognized as a second official language of Ukraine, on pro-Russian church, Orthodox Church.
So I understand these were demands which couldn't be met with any acceptance on the Ukrainian side. But the diplomatic efforts continue. Andriy Yermak, chief of staff of Volodymyr Zelensky, travels to Washington this week, trying to exploit Donald Trump's frustration with Vladimir Putin for the recent massive raids on Ukrainian cities. So I understand that the sanctions are his main priority. What could be the possible outcome of his mission?
Now the European Union is preparing the 18th package of sanctions. Also in the United States, in Senate, 82 senators agreed the draft of the law about strengthening sanctions against Russia. It's kind of serious package which could hit those countries who buy Russian energy, like oil, gas, uranium. There are a lot of leverages of influence over Russia. Also, the so-called Russian shadow fleet of oil tankers could be targeted, not just, a dozen or so ships vessels which are targeted now, but up to 400, all of them, all the Putin's shadow tanker fleet could be targeted. Those countries who buy Russian oil and gas could be targeted with tariffs, quite serious tariffs. There are a lot of tools of pressure on Russia, but the main tool is oil, because oil brings about 1/3, even more, of revenues to the Russian budget, state budget, and the cap of oil prices, if it will be reduced from $60 per barrel now to $30, it will be quite a hard hit for Russian state budget, for Russian war machine.
It remains to be seen whether this hit will be used, and it will be a dealt blow to Russia. Thank you so much. I'm afraid we used our time here. Rostyslav Khotin, senior editor at Radio Free Europe, Ukrainian service, was our guest here on TVP World. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
And thank you for staying here with us on World Talks. Please stay tuned to TVP World for more coverage.